Hello, I'm Reverend Lynn Rinaldi, Rector of Pohick Church. We're grateful for Mount Vernon for its assistance in helping us to share this story of our national treasure here. It's also a very active and lively church. We'd like to remind people that we are the home church of George Washington, George Mason, and George Fairfax, among many other colonists and their families, and that we carry their spirit forward here. We say that Pohick is embracing our past, welcoming all in the present, and transforming for the future. Our colonial ancestors who worshiped here were devoutly Christian and influenced by balanced, moderate Anglican ethos. General Washington was known for his devotion to Providence. That was his name for our triune God. He insisted on prayer for his troops, and he created the military chaplaincy. He tolerated all religions, later writing a famous letter about Truro Synagogue. He also commissioned these familiar Christian prayers and the 10 Commandments on this reredos over the altar. Sometime into the war, perspectives were changing. In a Bible and 1662 prayer book purchased by the Washingtons for Pohick Church, the prayer for the English monarch, part of our morning prayer service in those days, was neatly marked out. George Washington's spirituality was greatly influenced by his mother Mary Ball's contemplative spirituality and her devotion to prayer, as well as his father's dedication to Pohick Church and to Christian values. Anglican theology is known as the via media, or the middle way between Catholic and Protestant theology. In keeping with the Anglican ethos of the middle way, Washington rejected dualism and any form of extremes. He could hold the both and in balance. He tolerated and encouraged the beliefs of many. And in line with his incarnational spirituality, the incarnational spirituality of our church, Washington knew that faith must be lived. In many ways, his character and action reflected the belief that we are meant to be formed as Christ. Embodying Christ's humility, he flatly refused to be reelected a third time, and embodying Christ's sense of freedom, he rejected being made king. As president, Washington detested party politics and warned that political divisions would be the death of our nation. Throughout his life, Washington maintained a spirit of moderation, tolerance, and civility, even, and maybe especially, in disagreement. Of course, after the Revolutionary War, Americans no longer answered to the British monarch in either political or ecclesiastical matters. Like everything else, the American church was severed from the Church of England, so there were no Anglican clergy being ordained for America. A post-war financial crisis and a shortage of ordained clergy led to a brief period of church decline. In 1789, however, the American Episcopal Church, similar to its English mother, the Church of England, was born. Priests became available to preach and to celebrate the Eucharist once again. The Reverend Lee Massey, friend of George Washington and a colonial rector of Pohick, is buried underneath the pulpit. Revolutionary War officers, soldiers, other patriots, and priests are buried in and near the courtyard around the church. To this day, we are Pohick Episcopal Church under the umbrella of the Episcopal Diocese of Virginia. The Episcopal Church is part of the worldwide Anglican Communion. Our presiding bishop in the United States is one of many national church bishops in communion with the Archbishop of Canterbury in England still. Like all Anglicans, we still worship using the Book of Common Prayer. The Holy Eucharist, Baptism and other sacraments, as well as the Psalter and the daily office, are contained in an American version of the Book of Common Prayer that was created originally by the Church of England. The architecture of Pohick Church was influenced by Reformation theology. Notice the colonial pulpit. How can you help but notice it? It immediately commands your attention. Raised high, it's hard to miss. Lest colonial parishioners got distracted by their neighboring worshipers, the walls of their tall pews focused their eyes and their ears on the Word of God. In contrast with the impressive pulpit, the more Catholic sacramental altar for consecrating the Eucharist was smaller, less significant. Historically, Anglican theology balances both word and sacrament, or both Protestant and Catholic spirituality. This is the original baptismal font commissioned for Pohick Church. And then when this brick structure was built, a font that was once a mortar and pestle in England, in a monastery there, dating to the year 1000, was located on a farm in the Mason Neck, and it was moved here. Ever since, this font has been used for hundreds of baptisms and still is used for baptisms at Pohick. At Pohick Church, we like to say, "Come for the history, but stay for the lively and loving community of faith here." To this day, Pohickians embody our spiritual ancestors' incarnational spirituality of prayer, of moderation, service, and balance. Like them, we are formed in the Anglican ethos of the both and. We embody our belief in the love and mercy of Christ, and we warmly invite you to come experience the living spirit of Pohick's colonial ancestors as we bridge heritage and future in today's world. The Lord be with you.